In this video, I'm going to show you how to make some of the richest, smokiest, most flavor-intense, delicious beef jerky I've ever tasted in my life. The first thing we need to talk about is our cut of meat. This is a Tritip. It is a very well-marbled cut of meat with a fat cap and everything, and this is the complete opposite of what normally people tell you that you should make jerky out of. But the truth is, a ton of flavor comes from fat, and the reason that people usually say that you shouldn't use fatty meat to make jerky, that's because you have to change the way that you store the jerky. This, you could leave it out after it's cooked or after it's dried. You can leave it on the counter for a few days, but if you left this out for, a week or 2 weeks, it'll start to turn rancid on you. So just be aware that you will need to store this in the refrigerator if you're going to have it for long term. I've had it in there for a month and it's fine. If you're going to do longer than that, probably in the freezer. And as far as the way that you want to cut it, I've had mixed results. I've done it both ways. I've cut across the grain and I've cut with the grain. I haven't found that it affects tenderness nearly as much as how you process and dry it. The most important thing, in my opinion, as far as tenderness is using a good quality meat and also not overcooking it. So for the most part, because of the way it holds together, I prefer usually to cut with the grain. I'm going to be putting this jerky in the smoker, so I want to get my pellets drying really well right now. So I'm going to pop them in the microwave, run them for a minute, stir the batch, run them for a minute, keep doing that till I get bone dry pellets. For this awesome jerky, we are going to need two things. We are going to need a wet marinade, and we are also going to need a dry rub. Our wet ingredients are a half a cup of Kikoman soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of liquid smoke. Yes, I said liquid smoke. I know, if we're putting it in the smoker, why are you doing that? And the reason is because liquid smoke and actual smoke don't taste anything alike. In jerky, where the liquid smoke gets evaporated, I like both. It adds a whole nother layer of flavor. For the soy sauce, Kikoman is my favorite. The brand kind of does matter because Kiko is pretty different than the other soy sauces. My liquid smoke is Wrights, and I also taste the difference between that and, say, Fargo and some of the other brands. Our dry rub is a tablespoon of kosher salt, a half tablespoon of black pepper and brown sugar, a half teaspoon of onion and garlic powder, and an 1/8 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. I've weighed out 3 pounds exactly of our awesome marbled tri-tip roast meat. First, I'm going to mix in my wet ingredients, get them smeared around real well, and then I'm going to gently sprinkle the rub all over the outside of this, continually turning it so that it gets an even coat. We do not need to leave this in the refrigerator or let it marinate overnight. All we got to do now is put it on the racks and get it in our smoker. One quick note. Nitrate cure. Sometimes I use this. In this recipe, I never use it, and the reason is just because I've had a problem with it altering the flavor. It's like, normally, I don't have any problem with nitrates. I usually don't taste them. I eat them and stuff all the time. It's fine, but for some reason, in this recipe, I've had it alter the flavor significantly in a bad way. I don't know why it is exactly, but my advice is don't use it in this recipe. This is the amazing pellet smoker, the 5x8 tray version, which I greatly prefer over the tube one. Even though I have an electric smoker, Masterbuilt electric smokers don't produce smoke at low temperatures. I prefer the tray over the tube because it produces less smoke. If you get too much smoke while you're using a small smoker, it will turn your food acrid and it tastes like licking an ashtray. Even still, using this smaller, the tray type device is still too much smoke if you just stick it in there. It will make your food nasty quick. You could run it maybe a little while, like that, an hour or so, but more than that, and you'll have ashtray food, but there's a couple of really good ways to get around that. Number one is something I saw on Smoking Meat Forum, where they call it the Mailbox Mod, where you basically just build an external compartment for the smoke generator, and then the smoke condenses in there and gets sucked into the smoker, and that does definitely reduce the issues that you'll have with the food getting acrid. You can smoke a lot longer because there's more air mixture, and also because the smoke is condensed on something other than your food. However, I've found what I think is an even better way and easier, and that's to use a fan along with this. I put a piece of foil on the bottom of the smoker so that the smoke doesn't rise directly into the food, and then where the chip loader is, I stick my fan out a few inches away. It doesn't have to be on real high, and it will still look like there's kind of more smoke than what you would want coming out the top. It's a little bit thick, but I'm telling you, I've run this like this on thin meats for hours and hours and hours, and you get heavier smoke flavor as you go farther out, but it never got bitter, or it never got acrid once. What we're shooting for with this is we want the fat to be clear and kind of shrunk up a little bit, and the meat to be dry, but not too dry. It'll be kind of a darker brown, but you do not want to over dry it. That is the biggest mistake that I think people make, is you go way too far with it. You want it to still be kind of flexible, and when you bend it sharply, it'll kind of have scales that sort of flake up a little bit. If you're just not sure, the best thing I can say to do is take it out and let it cool, and if you tear into it and there's still meat that's kind of like a overcooked piece of steak, it's not completely dried out, you can always put it back in. But if you dry it too much, your jerky will be tough, or it'll be brittle, and it even downgrades the flavor. Here are some of our finished pieces. These on the left are the ones cut with the grain, and those are our strips cut across the grain. This is one of our pieces cut with the grain. Got great color, and I'll show you, even though it's dried, it is still pretty flexible. It's going to be really flexible when you first pull it out, but this has been cooled. Our pull test, it doesn't really take too much power to pull it apart. Here's one of ours that was cut crossways. That is just about the right doneness. When I bend that over, it doesn't snap like a cookie or anything. Our fat is pretty well rendered. I'd like for it to be a little more clear than that, but you know, if you don't like the part from that cap, you can always just pull it away. I actually happen to like it. Pull test on this. It comes apart about the same to me. The thing that really, really matters, though, you see how it's got that shine to it? It's just like a little bit oily on the outside from our fat rendering. That is what we're shooting for, and I'm telling you, the taste of this jerky is out of this world. I mean, I eat a lot of jerky. I buy tons of it at the store. Like, I eat a lot of jerky, and I'm telling you, this stuff is some of the most amazing jerky that I've ever had. The flavor of it is so rich. It's layer upon layer of taste. You can taste the liquid ingredients, you can taste the rub, you can taste the hickory and mesquite smoke flavor, and best of all, because of the fat that's still in this and that little bit of oil on the outside from the fat, it's sweet, but not from like sugar, but sweet like steak is sweet. I'm telling you, this tri-tip is, in my opinion, one of the absolute best pieces of meat to use because it has a steak flavor, and that fat that's still on there, not only does it have its own flavor that it brings, it also acts like a sponge, and so it super absorbs the flavor from your rub and from the smoke especially. It's just incredible. I've even tried ribeye with this. I've made ribeye jerky. I know it sounds like a waste, but to me it wasn't. But seriously, going to the ribeye from this, you jump up like $10 a pound, and it wasn't really that much better. It was amazing, but I think that this is really just as good for making jerky. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like. As always, guys, super thanks for watching, and good lucks.